Let's see what I go tell the others now.
Ellie.
What?
Tell them that Ellie is the little girl who broke your fucking finger!
Welcome to The Last of Us, a podcast review of the HBO series The Last of Us. Every week we will review the newest episode in the series, give you our impressions from 4 different and unique perspectives, as well as our thoughts on how it holds up to the game. You can join in on the conversation by contacting us at thelastofyins@gmail.com. And remember, when you're lost in the darkness, look for the light.
Hello and greetings from Todd's Steakhouse.
Yeah.
The food is so good, you'll want to have Dad for dinner.
I'd avoid the mushrooms.
I'm one of your hosts, Mal, and I've played all the games in the Last of Us series on which this TV show is based. Today, I am joined by...
Hi, this is Shannon. I have watched all the episodes, but I have never played the video game this TV show is based.
My name's Sean. I've watched every episode, played some of the game, and I love bullshitting about it.
My name is Corey. I have played the first game, none of the DLC, none of the second game, and my head is what is messing up the color contrast in this video.
Glad to clear that up. This week, we'll be throwing up our hands in praise of the penultimate episode of Last of Us, When We Are in Need, directed by Ali Abbasi and written by Craig Mazin. As always, how we do things here is we will review the latest episode of The Last of Us. What we won't discuss is any future spoilers about the game, the TV show, or the Last of Us preview at the end of the episode. Before we get into our deep dive, what are Ian's thoughts?
I really enjoyed it, and I'm very curious to learn how much is true to the video game.
Oh, I will definitely fill you in on that.
Craig Mazin wrote this alone, right?
He gets the sole writing credit on a lot of this because he's the one adapting it.
Okay. They pointed out something unique about this, as far as he got some sort of unique control over this episode, which...
Okay, it's very possible. I mean, I'm sure at certain times he has more creative control than, in other episodes. Obviously, as the creator of the show, or the series, of course, that's where Druckmann gets his main primary credit.
I would say if there's one thing that I would take away from this episode is apocalypse or pre-apocalypse, never trust a preacher.
That's pretty much generally a good thing in general.
Yeah.
Especially if you're an adolescent, anything.
Oh boy, come on.
Let's be nice.
We will start this episode off. We do come in at this Todd's Steakhouse. This is directly from the game. This is pretty much exactly the way it's laid out in the game, and even including the signage above the door that says, when you are in need, and then the rest of it's there. That's all game accurate. We come in on him. What we don't get in the show is any sort of lead into this. We don't see any of this, him talking to his flock, if you will. Regarding, he's reading from the book of Revelation, talking about someone who's obviously died. That's not revealed to us quite yet, but there's a young girl there who was this was the father of this young girl who he's talking to. He mentions this is not the first time he's had to read this passage. Obviously, this has gone on, and, they've lost people over the years. After this, the little girl asks, when are we going to get to bury him? He says, you can't because the ground's too cold. We'll have to wait till spring. Right away, it's like kind of ominous. You're like, cannibals, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys have that immediate sensation?
I did not. The first thing I went to, we had to do the same thing for her bird. I mean,
Yeah.
that was
Whenever I saw him give a look to the other guy, that little passive look between the two, like, that could have meant any number of things, but my brain went dark. I was like, they're eating.
Yeah.
that is not the point where it occurred to me.
Well, keep in mind, I knew where this was,
Okay.
but I kind of felt that was giving a little bit away, but you did not take that. That's great. I mean, at least they were kind of they were burying the lead, if you will.
Someone of average intelligence might have walked
No.
away knowing that's what
I heard
happened.
people.
I can't speak for anybody of average intelligence, but I didn't see it either.
Okay.
Oh,
And you
man, a
played the game.
post-apocalyptic world has to have cannibals.
Of course.
Yes. There were some people who I was watching, they're like, she's like, I bet this episode's going to have cannibals. And it's just like, boom, instantly. Yep, they did.
It didn't have shaky hands, though. Was that a Stephen King movie?
Shaky hands.
Yeah, where like the people that
Oh.
eat other people like have
Oh.
shaky hands
that-
from
that
something
was
in
a-
the meat content.
Mad cow disease apparently was from feeding cows other cows, and they translated that to cannibalism with people. So they would use that in movies to project he's been eating
Yeah.
people. They
Yeah.
make him shaky.
I think it has more to do if you're eating organs, especially the brains.
Okay.
That's when that shit kicks in.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
okay.
that's not good for you.
That's dark.
Not that it's good for you anyway.
Don't forget to eat their heart so that you gain their courage,
Right on.
their tasty courage.
After the service, this preacher, whose name we learn is David, has a conversation with another gentleman named James. They discuss the dwindling food supply. Dave's concerned with James' possible wavering faith. James assures him and says, they kind of make this slight amends and saying, "Go get your guns. We're going to go hunting." At this point, Shannon, do you have anything to say about our
we
guest
have
stars?
an appearance by first Scott Shepard. Scott Shepard, I recognized him. I wasn't sure what. I have seen Radium Girl, good movie. I saw The Young Pope. Didn't make any sense to me.
Didn't love
I
that.
stuck through to the end because I'm a big Jude Law fan. But he usually plays more kind of smaller parts. He was in Jason Bourne and a few other things.
Right.
And then that's about all I have on him. I recognized Troy Baker right away, only
Really?
having seen him a few times. But that being said, though, there were like 3 other guys that I said, or maybe that's him, or maybe that's
Yeah.
him throughout. But I was right the first time.
I didn't recognize him initially. I'm like, this has to be him because he's getting a front and center position.
I
So-
don't know which he was.
It's Abraham
it was
Lincoln.
James.
Or what's his name?
James
Something
was Troy
Lincoln.
Baker.
Holy
Troy-
shit.
So you know Troy
See, I'd
Baker.
never seen him before, so I didn't know. Yeah, please.
He was the voice of Joel, as well as many other characters, I understand,
Yes.
right? He does a lot of voice acting, and he's also a musician. I posted a song that was like a hit of
Oh, cool.
his band in 2004, and I cannot find my notes where I wrote what it was called. But how about this? This was an interesting thing that I found, that he did voices for a production including Arkham Origins and Batman versus TMNT. Have you
Yeah.
ever heard of that?
Video games, yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I was like, oh my goodness.
He played the Arkham Knight. He played Joker, Batman, and various Batman video game properties.
What
And the
was-
band was Trip Fontaine.
There we go.
What was he in the Turtles? Do you know?
I don't have all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. To add into that, of course, he played Revolver Ocelot in the Metal Gear Solid 5 version of the game. He played Higgs in Death Stranding, the main bad in Death Stranding, which is another Hideo Kojima property.
These dudes got creds, man.
He
Shit.
plays Sam Drake in Uncharted, which is Nathan Drake's brother.
He did work like directly for PlayStation or something like that, right?
He is
Ah.
basically, there's like 2 guys who do a lot of the voiceover work for any guy, any male characters, and he is one of them. He's in,
Yeah.
he plays Delson Rowe in Infamous 2.
He's
the main
the
character in
Samuel
that.
Jackson of video games.
Pretty
Or the-
much. I mean,
The
he's
Billy
just,
West.
yeah.
There you go.
Wait, go ahead.
Shut up and take my money.
That's the only Billy West that I have on here. So
That's fine.
It's impressive
And-
we have it at all.
He also is the host of the Last of Us podcast, the official podcast.
Right.
So I'm surprised you did not see him there.
I don't watch it. I listen to
Oh,
it.
you just
so I
you
don't-
listened to it. Okay.
it's not as good as this one.
And
better.
and since
In
you
the
don't watch it,
podcast, he didn't mention that he was in this episode.
He did, but I didn't know who he was or.
Oh, you didn't
honestly-
recognize-
I
yeah.
didn't spend a lot of
I
time
see. Oh, I
looking, if
see.
I'm being
Okay.
honest. No.
yeah. And of course, he's just damn handsome. I mean, that's one thing you can't overlook. It's like you
Ted
know what you
Danson.
saw. After we wrap up there, we head over to a big question mark as to whether Joel is alive or not. And apparently, he is. We check back in with Joel and Ellie to see that his wound is stitched up, but hell infected here at this point.
Not looking great.
Yeah,
Corey
he's-
mentioned that.
Yeah, it looks gnarly as fuck.
Yeah.
I do like the attention of like how it is a circular kind of like half punched in wound. It looks really
Right.
gross.
It was almost like there was 2 punctures from the broken bat, like a short one on top and a big, deeper.
yeah,
The whole thing's just swollen and red and festering, and it's bad.
yeah.
And I was really worried. I was
For
like, "Oh, no."
clarification, he's the other kind of infected.
Yes.
Both bad.
Both
yeah.
bad. Ellie tries to get him to drink anything and eat whatever left they have left. Obviously, she's extremely concerned at this point. She has no idea what's going to happen. At this point, we see her looking over at the gun, and she's basically saying, "I'm going to go out and see what I can do."
Right. Find something edible.
More than
Right.
me.
Yeah.
That's what she can do. More than me.
This is the point. Now we do see this basically in the game as well. This is this is kind of right where we get after, right where the last episode, what was the name of the last episode? I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Left Behind.
Yep.
Where Left Behind basically leaves off here is this scene right here.
Right.
She's going out hunting to see what she can do. At this point, they don't really show us what's going on. They just start the game here,
Okay.
and she goes out not with a rifle, but with a bow and arrow. And this is the point where they hid in the game that you actually do get to play as Ellie.
Right.
It's the first time you take the sticks as Ellie.
It's a neat little walkthrough too, as I recall. You're sort of tracking a deer. Every time you shoot it, it runs away into the mist, and you're sort of creeping through. You got no idea what's going to happen, but and all you're armed with is a bow. Do you have a limited number of arrows, or is it?
I think you have a health pack and the bow. I don't think the bow has a limit on it at this point. I think it's mainly a training exercise, if you will, tracking this down.
After all the action you had just gone through, it's a really bizarre tune down. As I recall, it's abrupt.
So you are hunting for this deer in the game.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that is so cool.
It starts off with a rabbit, just like it kind of does here, except in the game, it's really cute because you come to winter and it just brings up the light and there's this cute little bunny rabbit and then thump, there's an arrow right through the side of the rabbit. So in the game, you actually do get the rabbit.
Okay.
Not a game for our daughter, in case you were wondering.
No, that would not fly.
So once you get the rabbit, though, she continues.
She continues on as she's grabbing the rabbit and sees this deer. And much like in the game, in this case, she misses even taking the shot at the rabbit. It runs off. She runs and she goes face down in that snow. And you could just, I love this location shooting because it shows how cold it really fucking is. Her face is just boom,
Her
red.
face was so red.
Her
so
and
red.
James as well. I noticed.
And it
his
was
face.
blotchy. It wasn't like rouge. It was like, this is under her skin.
Yeah, you could tell this is not makeup. This is the way she gets when she gets cold. It was actually quite nice.
They talk about that in the after scenes and stuff, like shooting it in Calgary in February. And I'm like, yo, you guys got like all kinds of production money. You couldn't have done that like on green screen. Like, what the fuck, man? Like those actors need a better agent.
At least a host of torpedo heaters somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure there was like football sideline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially after that face down in the snow, because you could just tell like that just stings.
Was it her or was it a stunt actress that took the
I mean, it might not be her taking the. Well, I actually probably imagine that's her taking that.
Okay.
fall.
I mean, how bad could you get jacked up falling in snow?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure they made
And
sure
she gets
there's
that
no
stunt
rocks.
no rocks underneath.
Right. I mean, they've got people for that.
Sounds
That
like
was in the
they
contract.
made the same mistakes I have in the past.
Ellie's like, heaters, no. Somebody to check for rocks in the snow. Yes, we're good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she gets that stunt bump pay and for that little stunt she does there. After she goes down facing the snow, she continues on and she hears something that sounds suspiciously like a clicker, which I thought was interesting to do. And of course, it's just the antlers of a buck.
Oh, really? Because I all the noises that I heard there, I immediately knew what it was.
Yeah, but I
There's a
think it
hunter
was
here.
meant to
Well,
give you
as
pause.
somebody who's watched a lot of videos on hunting
Yeah.
and never done very well at it, I do often search YouTube and go like, okay, what am I doing wrong? You know,
You'll get your big rack.
I think the biggest issue is that I infect the woods with a cigar smell
smoke
for
doesn't
like
help.
Like
a
this
half
chimney
mile.
coming behind you.
That's right.
Can't,
That's right.
just, can't exactly sneak up
Do
on a
you
buck.
really smoke cigars while you're out there?
No,
No,
absolutely
but he smokes
not.
them at the cabin, and that just peppers the
No.
whole valley.
No,
Okay.
the valley.
He
end,
goes through
maybe.
so much trouble just to make sure his clothes don't have any scent if he's actually going out there and
Oh,
puffing
she
on
was
a
about to
cigar.
get really mad.
No, when I go up to camp, like the morning of, you get a shower with scentless soap and
Yeah.
scentless clothes. So
Put a little deer piss on
Felt
your shoes.
not the
and
same.
then usually it's like noon, and I'm like, this is bullshit. I should just light up a cigar. I ain't gonna see anything anyway.
Well, I'm sure Ellie doesn't need to go through all that. I'm sure she smells pretty ripe.
Oh,
Back
yeah.
to the
Fits in.
show.
She smells all natural.
Natural.
She does come upon this deer and she takes aim and actually gets a good shot off. It was actually quite impressive. Obviously, this wasn't a real
Right.
deer, but man, that looked real as hell.
It did. The sound was really notable how real it was. It was from when you're sitting there. It's not always just like next to your head, but it's like a
Yeah.
And they had that,
Yeah.
and I was like, pretty good. That's a a rifle shot versus a firecracker. You can
Yeah.
tell.
And the
So-
way that deer gets, he just goes down for a second and takes a fuck off. Was that
Yeah.
Shannon?
Did it look like a good shot to a deer hunter? I couldn't tell really where.
As somebody who's watched a lot of deer hunters trying to figure out what to do, yes, it was it was very believable. They did an excellent
and
job,
the-
especially considering that animals are often the thing that they f up in movies. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I think of like the Wolverine when they CGI a grizzly bear, and it's just like,
Yeah.
yo, that looks so bad.
Yeah.
No, they did a really good job.
And I think, I mean, I've heard people, it's like, you can't be walking around. It's like, I've walked up on a buck.
I have.
Oh, I've had
walked
them
up on
walk
a
up to
host of
me.
'em.
I went hunting one time only, and I walked up on a buck, and I was just like, I bring up the gun, and I'm just, I didn't have a license for this, so I was like, I could have easily
Oh, you
taken
were
the
out hunting
shot.
with a friend, had a gun, but you didn't.
I aimed down, and I saw the rack, and I'm like, God damn it!
Oh,
And no, I
man.
probably could have gotten away with it.
I would never have pegged you as a
This is
hunter.
this is doe season, so I didn't have any special thing.
I was
going
gonna
to
say, generally, you have to get a tag for a doe, and it's okay to you get one buck
buck.
with your license.
At this
And
point,
then you have to pay to take out
Oh.
doe. However, if it's doe only season, that's different.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
and of course, I was an experience, and I knew what I had, and I'm like, I didn't want to take the chance of getting in trouble. So I was like,
Huh.
but it was like the one time, like, damn, I could have actually.
Yeah.
It was the same shot as she had.
See, you're a victim of your time, because if
Yes.
that would happen today, you could have killed that motherfucker and be like, he identifies as a doe.
Oh man.
Anyway, we move on. She does take the shot, and she does clearly hit it, because there is a trail of blood which is being followed by a camera, which we realize is not Ellie, but it is David and James. They happen upon the down deer, and they first try and decide what they're going to do, if they should, just take it and run or what have you. And at this point, Ellie does get the drop on them, saying, "Drop your rifles." Tells him no funny business, or they'll get a bullet between the eyes, and that goes for Buddy Boy too.
Is this how she
Buddy
meets
boy.
them in the game? Are these characters in the game? I
Yes,
assume.
David and Buddy Boy, or James, are in the game. Now, James doesn't have the presence. He's just a guy with David in the game. But it pretty much goes down the same way, where she, tells him to back away. He's a little bit more like, and let me introduce myself. We can help you if you can help us, etc. And he does send him for the antibiotics, and I just love how he says it's not a code.
I like that too.
I really
Clearly, they
love
have
that.
a code.
Right.
Right. A way
Yeah.
to talk to each other, and he was confused about it. It's not a
Yeah,
code,
the
go do it.
confusion in his face was perfect. Perfectly
Just
well
to
played,
jump back,
Troy Baker. Very well done.
Yeah.
I really loved that little scene where they came up on the deer and had the little conversation between them with Ellie, probably hiding in the bushes or something.
Yeah.
Walking up still.
Great way to present that. Did they say they heard the shot?
No.
I don't recall now.
They would
It
have,
wouldn't
though.
surprise me that they heard it, and that's how they came to find the deer.
Oh, maybe.
Would you walk up to someone's deer after they shot it?
No.
Well, no.
That means the rifle's already
apocalypse.
pointed in that direction.
Yeah, but the
And-
apocalypse.
Also, you have to remember, like, a deer, depending on where it's hit, can make it a decent
Oh,
way.
yeah,
Fair to say.
absolutely.
You know how
Fair to
many
say.
times your uncle has lost a deer looking for it in the woods. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
think once, I
generally,
don't
it's
think it's-
found,
yeah.
eventually.
Right.
But, I've lots of hunters that I
Lose them
know.
off the bat, and then you track them down. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
especially rifle season, you know what I mean? Because you're more like Ellie in this situation. You got that rifle, and you're like, man, it's why people get hurt so much more in rifle season than archery. Archery, you got to really take your shot when it's perfect. When you have a rifle, people are just shooting at movement. You know what I mean?
The biggest problem I think with rifles is that the arrow is going to get stopped by a branch or a tree, but a bullet, people don't watch their backdrop enough. That's why I think people get hurt in rifle. a lot.
Well, not only that, but you have more range and more
Yeah,
confidence
absolutely.
in your
More power.
sighting and weaponry. Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at is
Yeah.
like,
And you're closer. You're closer.
They can definitely, get away from you.
I
and,
pray people aren't more careless with a rifle, is all I'm saying.
I would like to state that I was very proud of the way that Ellie handled that situation and getting
Yeah.
the drop on
Yes.
those
Yeah.
dudes. But at the same time, I was like, you definitely need to work on your wordplay for this situation, because Buddy Boy is
Buddy
not
Boy.
very intimidating.
I loved it. I just
I thought
well,
it
she
was
says
hilarious.
"buddy boy" in the game. That's a direct reference to the game, so she uses that terminology. I do like that she has them back off, and she empties both guns.
Yeah, that was a
Completely.
great detail.
That was
It
cool.
was a nice touch.
No, just running for it. They're gonna,
Right. She also preoccupies him by making him drag back, so he's
Yeah.
dragged the deer back to that shelter there.
critical mistake Ellie made a while back when she shot that deer. She did not plan what comes next, because he pointed that out. You're not dragging this by
Right.
yourself.
Yeah.
She could have left half of it there frozen. You know
Right.
what I mean? But I
like,
don't
take it
think
off
she thought that
bits and
through. I
pieces.
think she saw
Bits and
food.
pieces.
I think she just wanted to get at it
Yeah.
and get the shot done. And if she can't get it back on her own, maybe she can get, maybe at
Part of
that point
it, or-
Joel might be able to help. It's just, she doesn't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think she goes out there thinking I'm going to see a deer.
Right.
I think she goes out there thinking I
Yes.
can find some
Yeah.
small food, rabbit, bird, whatever.
Right.
And I think she just
Took the shot.
exactly was, in that moment was just like, I'm gonna take whatever I could get, and that's better than I thought I was
Right.
gonna have.
David had her on that point immediately, though. You're not dragging this back alone.
Right.
That thing about her unloading the gun, I think in that moment I'm like, oh, that's really smart. And I thought, well, Fedra, that went back to the fact that she was basically in a military school.
Yeah.
And I think that
And
some
that
of
she's
that
learned from
mentality-
Joel. I mean,
For
Joel would have
sure.
taught her these sorts of things. Like if you get someone's gun and you want to
Yeah.
empty that thing, and she even goes back several times on that bolt to empty out whatever else is in
Right.
there.
Maybe, but our experience that we see on screen with Joel and Ellie,
Yep.
limited as it is, we don't see them walking and killing, fighting
Right.
a bunch of stuff.
Not for
Yeah, but
no
they
reason,
did
yeah.
target practice. He did show her how to shoot. And
Well, so much of that this show is her saying, "Hey, show me how to use a gun," and him be like, "Fuck
Yeah.
you."
yes, but he did finally come around.
For sure.
This character, David, told us so much for so little in this scene because he had a very soft back and forth. It was very calculated and careful, but you're watching the whole time like there's a fucking snake behind those eyes. This guy is planning,
Oh.
he's plotting, he's
Right.
calculating. He
Yeah,
felt dangerous.
When he does, basically, he says we should take shelter, and she agrees.
Mhm.
In the game, this is different. They do the same thing. They pull back to a shelter, but while James is away, infected come in the game.
Mhm.
And they basically, there's a little bit of extra almost bonding between her and David where they get a little bit more time to help each other out, if you will. And they're basically in this building fighting off this wave after wave of infected. And, you're basically proving yourself to him, and he's proving at least some worth to you in that point.
Yeah.
In the game, of course, they have a very similar conversation, just in a much more condensed time frame. Says that she shouldn't be out on her own. She's like, from where I'm sitting, you shouldn't be out on your own.
great line.
So why do you
Great
think
line.
they didn't do the walkers in the show? Because I would have loved. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's
So
okay,
the infected. Edit that out.
I just be safe and call them runners. I mean,
Right. Well, I mean, so because that would have been an opportunity to serve me.
I just think what you learn in this episode, especially and throughout this series, is that the billing on this has been off by people who weren't really familiar with the game. It's not a zombie show,
Yeah.
and it's not a show, and Joel's not necessarily the hero.
Okay, I've
Right.
come to terms with that, especially that it's not a zombie show.
Yeah.
It's a good show. It doesn't need to be a zombie show. That being said, I would like to see more zombies.
Of course.
Yeah.
And
It
if
is,
if there's an opportunity in the game, I don't understand why they would remove that. I mean, maybe for cost
Time,
purposes or-
money, and again, they want the characters and their relationships out front as much as humanly possible.
But like you said, that gave them a bonding opportunity that they didn't really have. So his
Yeah.
smittenness with her
Yeah.
came it felt very unorganic. It was just bizarre.
in the game, they do use a lot more monsters. That's how they keep the action going. But I think the entire point they're trying to drive home is the same one they're doing here, where it's like the world's falling apart, but the most dangerous enemy is still people.
Right.
End of the day.
I think we're all struggling with what AMC did well is give a name to these things. And
Yeah.
infected doesn't roll off the tongue,
No,
right?
it does not.
How about fun guys?
No, not doing fun, guys. That's funny though.
There was, I don't know how true this was, but they were saying on the set they were not allowed to refer to them as zombies
I
because
would
Yeah.
understand.
yeah, they
'Cause
want to
they're not.
maintain that.
Zombies are walking returned dead. These
Yeah.
things aren't dead.
They're infected.
What
So-
is dead never die.
Exactly.
If they're just infected, then can they be cured? I mean, I haven't really thought that far
Ooh.
ahead.
Well, that's the whole idea here.
No, but I thought it was the whole idea was to an immunity, not a cure.
Nah, yeah, you're confusing worlds here. In The Walking Dead, there's no cure. Would never be a cure. They said that right from the beginning. But in
Okay.
this, they never say anything one way or the other. Cure, no cure. We're actually
Vaccination, no
hunting for one.
vaccination. Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's our whole goal here is to get Ellie to.
Well, the important thing is like the host is not decomposing as a zombie, right? Like zombies decompose
Yeah, you never
because they're
die.
dead,
You
right?
transition.
Oh.
So they are essentially infected with a parasite, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying anything because I don't even know, to be honest with you. But I would say from the perspective of somebody with the information that I have, you remove the parasite and then the host.
Okay,
should
except
still
for
be
the fact
okay.
that you can shoot one of these things in the heart, and it will still run around, unless you get it in the head. Correct. So if you got rid of the parasite, that body would no longer be alive. So therefore, there are
Yeah.
Walking
It's-
Dead people in this
yeah,
show in some
it's-
instances.
It's not
Well-
made explicitly clear as to
Yeah.
how the actual infection works. And I don't know if they will clear that up in the next episode, but we'll see.
They never really is clearly established in the game either how you kill these things. You put 10 shots in their body, they'll go down. One shot
Oh,
to
really?
their head, they'll go down. But like, there's no real clear line there. Do I kill it in the
Well-
head every time? Do I stab it in the heart?
I think we know that the fungus allegedly controls the brain. So if you destroy the brain, it is going to die, regardless of what infection it has. Sure, the infection could spread from its body outwards at that
It
point,
still needs the brain to control
but it's
the rest
no
of the
longer. Yeah,
host.
you can't control the muscles without the brain. So once you shoot it in the head, it's dead.
The other thing is too, like movies give you the impression that when you shoot something in the heart, it's done and it drops immediately, but that is not the case, right? What happens
Yeah,
is
but you don't exactly go walking around either.
no, but here's the thing:
A deer might take off running.
here's the thing. Yes, a deer 100% will, until it bleeds out and the oxygen's gone from the brain and everything dies from the lack of oxygen. But and again, this is educated guess on my side or hypothesis, but the one thing that the infected don't, because of the fact that their brain is controlled by the fungus, is they have no reaction to pain. You can shoot them and
Right.
they're not going
Important
to react to it. Their only focus is to spread and to attack, right? So a shot that might kill them, in 5 or 10 minutes is not going to help you now.
Right.
You
Yeah.
need something
Good
that's
point.
going to disable it immediately, or it's going to keep coming at you.
To continue on with the scene here, they kind of go this back and forth. He tries to learn her name. She just shakes her head silently.
Right.
Asks her to join their group. She's like, "Thank you for
Thank you
enjoying,"
for inviting me to your hunger group.
which I love. I love
Your
that
hunger
line.
club. Sorry,
Hunger
hunger
club.
club.
This is a great line.
Yeah.
He claims he's a decent man, which everything starts out great when you say that.
Trust me.
Yeah. She asks, he says he's their leader, and she's like, by choice. He's like, he basically accuses, it's like, is this a cult? Well, you sort of got me there. I am a preacher.
Showing how he really feels about his religion too. If you ask
Right.
me.
And he does even mention that later, where he's like, these people believe in this stuff, so I'm going to fill that gap for them, which is
Right.
really even more
Yeah,
creepy.
it's all a ruse.
Psychopath.
He mentions that he was a teacher and he became a preacher, and she makes fun of that, saying because it rhymed, and he's like, yeah. We also learn a little bit of his backstory when she says, I guess your luck had to run out sometime. He's
Call
like,
out to the Yinzers.
Yep. He says, I don't believe in luck. And then he tells the story of how he came from Pittsburgh. It's like,
Thank you.
it's good to get a Pittsburgh shout out,
Thank you,
but at what a
finally.
cost?
Yeah, like
I sat
a
up in my
different
chair.
character would have been better.
Yeah,
Like that's definitely a Boston dude. You
Don't
know what
care.
I mean?
Don't care. They said my name. I put my hands in the
Yeah.
air.
2017. We only made it to 2017.
17, yeah.
Apparently, yeah. Oh, crap.
They make their way out west. And again, I said, like, how disappointed were you to figure out that the worst character in this game is from our town? It's just like, come on.
Honestly, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Is he the worst? He's pretty dark.
I would say, yes, he's probably the worst.
Okay.
In terms of just,
So many shades of gray when it comes to the word worst in this universe.
well, it is all matter of perspective, but this
Yeah.
guy does take the cake. And the pie and the
And throw it out the
enchilada.
window, yeah.
Yeah.
The human cake.
Yeah.
The glutes.
Yeah. It's, says his luck has to run out sooner or later. He says there's no such thing as luck. And he starts to recount a story that we were a little bit familiar with at first. And we're like, oh, wait. This guy that didn't come back from this party that he sent out was the guy that Joel killed. And he says, and get
Yeah.
this guy was traveling with a little girl. It's at this point you realize that she knows who he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
He had her pegged from the moment she walked up. That's scary.
Do you think?
I
At
think
what
the
point do you think he realized he knew who this was?
I think the moment she walked up, he assumed that this is the little girl that was with the guy that killed our man. And I think that his friend thought that too. And I think
Yeah.
when he told him to go get the shit, his friend was fuming, not because he was helping her, because he thought he knew what he was looking at.
Yeah. I mean, it's at this point where that realization comes up where he's like, put the gun. I love this off screen. It's like, put the gun down, James. Like he's right behind her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not happy with the fact that he knows that this girl is with the guy who killed this Alec gentleman, and that he's just going to let her go. He comes back with the medicine, has Buddy Boy back off. She takes it and gets the hell out of there without the deer. She just wants to get back. He's not happy that he's let her go.
I do have to back Sean's play on this one. I think 100%. If you if you consider that when it's clear that he knows that she's with Joel, then he had to know the whole time, because you look at the environment that they're in and you go, okay, this girl's not out here by herself. She did not make how often are they seeing people, right? Like Joel's the last person they've seen is probably months before they've come across anybody wandering in that situation out
Much
there.
less a little girl by
And
herself.
Right.
The
So
very latest when she said medicine, because he knew he was
Yeah,
wounded from
that's
the
true.
reports from the other people.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
true.
Oh,
too,
that's a
you're
good
right.
point too. Yeah, they would have known that he would have got him.
Mhm.
She takes the medication back, or the penicillin, whatever it ends up being, back to Joel.
Okay, hold on though.
Yeah, go
the
ahead, I'm sorry.
scene, the scene where she's running off into the woods, is that direct cut scene? It looked like a video game cut scene, like I've ever seen one before.
Yeah, she pretty much
Yeah.
at that point in the game, if I'm correct, she takes the medication.
And just runs off.
He
into the
continues to
woods.
try to say, "Hey, you shouldn't go," but it
Yeah.
goes down pretty much the way it does here.
Yeah.
He was much more aggressive a character in the game, like not so sedated and soft and preacher like. He was more, not a lot
Yeah.
more aggressive, but enough to
In
be
the
different.
game, the character of David is voiced by Nolan North,
Okay.
who is another Naughty Dog alum, and he does all the other male parts in video games.
he sounds like a porn star
Yeah,
too.
he
Him and
does.
the other guy just talking to themselves.
Yeah, but Nolan North plays this character, and he plays Nathan Drake in The Last of Us, and all the Last of Us games. And these two, Nathan Drake, Nolan North, and Troy Baker act opposite each other as brothers in Uncharted.
Oh,
So they actually have scenes together in those games. And
you
they
can tell from his podcast that he does audio work. He
Oh,
just
yeah.
has a voice very capable.
and they're both very good at their jobs. And Nolan North, I it's really hard. They're both this Shepard gentleman and Nolan North's portrayal of David is really, really good. And
Oh,
it's
yeah, I
really
thought he did a good
subtle,
job.
sinister at first, which turns into super sinister by the end.
Subtle sinister's way more than the overt
Right.
evil to me.
Right away, no matter which which actor you're listening to or watching, you get the idea that David is not quite there in terms of a good guy.
I mean, just to go for his own scripture, the Bible problem gave me the one quote that made me the least trustful I've ever been. I'm not a Bible person, but I remember learning in school that the devil can come to you in the guise of an angel. And ever since I heard that line, it's like, yeah, I'm going to give everything a little second thought.
So are we just going to skate by the penicillin thing?
What about? Well,
Nobody finds irony in the fact that a world where the biggest danger is a fungus, that she needs it to save his life.
That is irony. No, I didn't catch it.
I
That's
didn't
fucking
think of
brilliant.
that. That is brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it.
I have my moments.
Every sword has two edges.
There
That
you
is
go.
That's right.
brilliant.
Hey, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't quite get the connection, but yeah, you're absolutely right. She heads back with this penicillin and decides to go ahead and give Joel an injection. Is this how you give injections of penicillin?
Okay, so I actually looked it up.
Oh, thank you, thank you,
Thank you.
Christ.
You're supposed to put it in a large muscle, preferably your butt.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
Now, the thing I said, or one of the things that I read that they specifically were talking about this episode, they said that so she did it all wrong. There's no way it would work. But
Eh.
in my mind, I'm thinking there are muscles there. So, wow, it's not the most preferable muscle.
Mhm.
It would still be the right material.
My
you know?
thought is if it gets in your body, it would probably be okay. The only problem is how deep she goes. If she starts going too deep,
Like into the organs or something.
yes,
yeah.
you can
She
start
doesn't get
killing
into
off
the
stuff in the
vascular
organs,
system,
and you're
yeah.
going to really fuck them up. But
But
I
if
don't.
she just got into his muscle, and I'm sure he's got. a
She
nice
doesn't
little
have.
muscle.
She doesn't have a big syringe either, right?
It's-
It's not like
It
it's
was
not
sizable
like the
plunger, man. That
well,
thing was
the plunger.
Yeah, but the
the
actual-
needle tip is
Oh,
what
yeah.
I'm talking
Yeah, it was
about.
probably an inch long or less.
So it's probably in his abdominal muscles.
Right. It's probably okay. And again, of course, you have to understand she doesn't know what the fuck she's
This is
doing.
Right.
where my ticker went off a little bit, though, because it's not because I found fault in what she was doing, because I'm not there. I'm not desperate. I don't know what it would be like. But I'm sitting there looking like, how's she going to know how to use that? No, that can't be
Fedra.
right. you
She's
know?
certainly seen needles and syringes
I
before.
guess, man, but
Military
would-
school, baby.
I'm putting myself there with clueless as fuck, like looking at this, like I would panic. I would probably put it in his ass by accident and do the right thing.
You got to remember, dude, this
I'll
girl
stick
knows
around.
how to do fatalities
leave it.
in Mortal Kombat, and she's never played it. You know what I mean? There's books.
Riley talk.
There you go.
After she gets him the injection, she lays down. It's a kind of a little cute scene where she puts her head down on his shoulder. That's actually quite nice. That's
Yeah.
very close to what the video game is.
Aw.
So we get the same scene there. We head back to the camp, or the resort, if you will, and it's dinner time, or at least it's about to be dinner time, and we're totally having venison. You see the looks around the room from the woman and the other man there, and they're like, "Do you think they believe it, or do you think they know that it's
they
not
know.
venison?"
I think that they knew better.
So I obviously have no idea what human meat looks like, tastes like,
Me
smells
neither,
like.
and
However, I have seen some documentaries about like the cannibal warlords of Liberia and that kind of thing, and they do
course you
discuss
do.
it. Yeah, and, dark morbid fascination. But they described it always as very similar to pork. It's a white meat, has such a unique smell and taste that if you've ever had it, you'll know it immediately. The one guy said they served it to him in a restaurant in Liberia, and he turned it back and said he knew it was human meat because he'd had it
Yeah.
before.
Ugh.
You know.
Well,
But
yeah. So
what
then
I saw,
clearly
those,
that might not have been
those
human
very
meat then.
red cubes, if
That was
you
red
had
meat,
listened
yeah.
to the stuff that I'd heard in the past, might have didn't really look like I would expect. But I don't know.
It might
Maybe-
be a mix. Yeah.
Maybe there's
I-
venison. They don't actually tell us explicitly,
Well, I
but
doubt
at
that
that
it was real human meat, but a pig probably would have been smarter than a cow.
right.
Yeah, I wondered the same thing, but I stayed away from the Google machine. I did
Now,
not want to look it up.
At this point, though, did cannibalism come into your head at this point?
No, not the first watch. By the second watch,
Okay.
of course, I knew, and that's when I started picking these. Listen, up until the point where he slaps that girl in this next scene,
Mm.
I was still naive enough to think this guy might be a nice
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
Yes.
It's bad.
He
And
got you.
I feel bad that I
Yeah.
wasn't smart enough to pick up
Doesn't
otherwise.
make you
No,
stupid.
I'm still with you.
Yeah,
I did not
absolutely.
know at this point
Yeah.
either.
I'd say
yeah.
that
I-
actor did. Yeah, okay, sorry.
When they said venison, I definitely knew it wasn't. And there was something wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was thinking like, oh, maybe it's rat
Well,
meat.
you thought it might have been a deer that they just killed.
No, no,
Right.
no, no, no.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I don't think I did at that point. But I thought when he said it, it reminded me of the episode of The Big Bang Theory where Sheldon's like, I stepped in what I'm telling myself was pudding.
That's a good.
I'm telling myself a lot of things today, and I thought it was like, oh, like you don't want to know, like, oh, maybe it's rat meat, or maybe it's something that's old, or a cat or a dog. That's actually, I think that's where my head was, like
Did you-
something that you
I
don't
thought it
want
was
to
the
eat.
deer that they just
You thought it was the deer they
that-
just shot?
because
That's
the
what I
scenes
wanted to
were
see if
close
they got
together. But for all I knew, they came back,
Okay.
they butchered the deer, and that's what they were
I
feeding
think
their
that was the
people.
intention,
intention, yeah,
to
and
give
then
you
to
like,
have
is it
dropped
the
that-
deer or is it something else?
and then to bring it in and drop it on the floor.
Right, and then you're going, okay, well, they did say
Yeah.
in a previous scene that they had deer,
Yeah, they did. Other meats.
to last them a week, maybe two, so they did have other food.
Right.
So that could be venison just from a different deer.
And this is the scene right after that where they come in with the deer, and he starts talking to them and says that you might have heard a rumor that we found the person who killed Alec.
Mhm.
At which point, that young lady from the earlier scene chimes up and says, "You should kill them. You should kill them both." And it's at this point where you get this turn, this flex, if you will, that like you realize that David might not be a good guy.
Yeah.
He shows her his best backhand and knocks her to the floor.
Backhand too. I mean,
Yeah.
to the floor.
And the
Yeah.
mother didn't intervene.
Is that a mother? I couldn't tell what the relationship
I was under the impression
there.
it was, and it is listed as her mother.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. She looked awfully young.
She
but-
Yeah.
reacted, but she did not intervene.
No one did, and that's important too. He has these people completely snowed. No pun intended.
And I don't want to get ahead.
No, go ahead.
Are you about to talk about the meal?
Yeah, I'll go right ahead.
They sit down to that meal. You're thinking whatever you're thinking, but my wife noticed his portion bigger than everybody.
yeah.
Oh
I
yeah,
noticed that right
dude.
away.
And it looked much nicer too.
Yeah,
It did.
Like
much
that
nicer
was-
preparation of
I
human
wonder
meat.
his was probably real venison for all we know. You know
I
what
think I
mean?
think that was all venison. They did all eat, some of them anyhow, ate very cautiously, while others were
Yeah.
kind of scooping it in. My thought is that the people that were being cautious probably just weren't sure.
Yeah,
it
they had a
was,
sense that it's coming to this,
Well,
like the
right.
little girl probably did, but maybe they hadn't full on
What's-
dove into it yet.
Yeah, what's really creepy is both them. Like you see her lift the nest, being like, "You're eating your dad." Oh no, stop!
Oh.
See, that's where my mind
My
went.
mind didn't go there.
Me
until-
No, you
neither,
didn't think
Matt.
that? Oh my God! Yeah, that's right.
Wait.
had
It's
on-
Alex
Wait.
Stew, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh man, that's fucking dark.
I can't be the only. I've watched
Oh,
many
I'm sure you're
reactors.
not.
I'm not the only one that comes up with
I like he said that's dark, and I just don't have a dark mind. I didn't even think of that.
this guy.
man.
And then the foley of them, all the clinking of the plates, and
All
they're
the
just
all you can hear is
diving
the
in.
spoons, and they're so hungry. You can tell once they get going. You know.
No, sir, I don't like it.
Oh, that was dark.
And then, of course, I do point out the David gets that unusually large portion, and these
Yeah.
people are just completely broken at this point. I don't think, other than the people who are the family members, would really even care at this point what they were eating.
I mean, if you listen to the podcast a little bit culty, you get an idea how these things operate in the back end. And one of the key devices they do is they play people against each other. So they'll pull one individual side, have a talk with them, another one, make them all kind of suspicious of each other. So these people probably don't trust one another, not to snitch at the very least, if not turn on them. And then he just gets to play them all like a fiddle.
And slapping her down is a power play. That is his intention, is to basically say, listen, you might have lost your father, but you haven't lost which is just adds a whole nother level of creepiness on top of this. He does say that they'll go out in the morning to track her down. In the snow, it should be hard to find her. The next morning, we see that Ellie is tending to Joel with yet another injection. And she gives, now I'm going to name the horse here because they don't do this in the show. The horse's name is Callus.
Huh. I like the name.
She picks up some snow for Callus to drink, if you will. While she's outside doing that, and I think the reason why they don't give the horse a name is because what happens later.
Yeah,
I had one problem here. Is she left the garage door open. Oh, wait, I'm thinking of way back whenever she went out to get the deer, she walked out, gave the horse some water.
This is where she gives the horse some water or snow, if you will. And then she comes back out, and this is where she hears the crows come up off, and she knows that something's up. She goes along the fence line and sees that David and his hunting party are out there, looking for them. David tells the group he wants Ellie alive. James once again questions the wisdom of this action. While he's not dead set on killing her, suggests that, to just let her go, that it's just another mouth to feed.
Right.
David says that she die out there, and he says, well, perhaps that's God's will.
Right.
And this turn that David gives him, that's like, you don't know God's will. That's my job.
My job.
It's very unsettling.
Two things God said there is exactly what you said. This is my job, but you also get a sense that he wants Ellie maybe for something a little more than just another community member.
Giggity, giggity, giggity.
That's inappropriate.
That's dark. So knowing what we know about Joel and where he's sitting right now, I'm panicking because my mind is thinking Joel's in the basement, disabled, and Ellie's not dragging him anywhere. What is going to happen?
Well, yeah, it's at this point you're like, what is her plan at this point? And her plan is to just lead them the hell out of there.
Right. And I thought it was brilliant that she put the cabinet in front of the door to try to kind of disguise that there's even a way to get down there.
Very video
Didn't
gamey.
work,
Yep.
but but it was good.
It's very video gamey. He notices the line on the he can tell that cabinet has recently been moved. She gets on the horse and she takes off out there, and I just love it. She goes off with a mighty hi ho motherfuckers. Just takes the fuck off. As she rides out, James hops the fence and kind of cuts her off at the pass there. I just love the way he backs up against that tree. It's he takes that shot, and this is where we lose Callus. This happens in the game too. It's a much more protracted scene in the game where she's riding through an entire town, and then the horse gets hit.
Yeah, she was drawing them all off through the town instead of catching them before they spread out.
Is that a cut scene, or are you playing?
You are riding the horse, but at the gunshot, it becomes a cutscene.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
this is where your horse came into play. The mechanical horse that you posted on the Facebook page. She showed me the video. Did you share it in the group?
Yeah.
The video of the horse actually getting kicked back and thrown off the back with the stunt driver.
Oh, I didn't see that. No,
I did. I saw it.
Yeah.
I may have seen it somewhere else, but I thought I'd seen it on
So
the
that
group.
mechanical horse in the trailer that you posted, this is what they used it for.
Oh, okay.
And I will say that that was a lot less realistic. That horse doesn't just drop.
Yeah.
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 You think it keeps running a little bit?
Yeah. If the deer does whenever you shoot, it's hard. Unless
Well,
they
here, let me
drilled this horse right in the brain, and I highly doubt that.
Not disagreeing with you, but if it hits soft meat, like when you're aiming at a deer heart right through, but if it hits a shoulder blade or something like that, that bullet might put that animal straight down.
Let me clarify. Yes, there's death throws.
Yeah.
That horse isn't dropping and staying still.
No, you're
the
right,
horse
you're right.
gets back
You're
up,
right.
or
I
it
didn't
whines and
understand.
rolls
Yeah.
around.
You meant that it just dropped and flattened out. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think they made a choice to go we don't want everybody
Nobody
to hate
wants to
us
see
from
that,
showing
yeah.
this horse die slowly.
Yeah, and you can kill any animal or person you want,
right.
as long as it's not a dog.
Yeah, we could watch a guy actually.
I'm
beg
not
for
really
his
happy about
mother.
horses, but I love horses. Horses. What I'm trying to say, I'm not happy when they shoot a horse. That drives me nuts.
I'm
But
not happy about horses.
But I
God damn
will.
those horses.
That's a soundbite I got to cut it for sure. I'm not happy. I'm happy about horses. Wait,
I love horses.
Is that a
Horses, cats,
that a clean
dogs,
drop?
and generally.
But I will
speaking,
continue to
children
watch
are off the table.
if a horse kicks it.
Yeah.
Well, clearly.
But I will. Yeah, dogs. I can't do it.
After he downs the horse and by extension Ellie, James and the Oak Ridge boys come up on Ellie, and they decide that like they should probably just go ahead and kill Ellie to just end this whole
Yeah, I
situation.
think they made that decision already.
At that point, David steps in to basically save Ellie, or whatever he wants to do. He tells the group if they're so hungry for vengeance to go ahead and deliver it. So he sends 2 of them back with the horse, and he takes Ellie, and the remaining 3, the dead men walking, if you will, head back to look for Joel.
And they all look like James. That's where I was going. Or maybe that's Troy Baker. Or maybe that's Troy Baker. It's like a bunch of, hairy white
Baker, though.
guys.
And white guys all look the same.
He clearly found like a beard trimmer in the apocalypse.
Yeah, their beards were on point.
Whereas the other guys, they were just
A
like
little shaggier.
the members of ZZ Top out there.
Well, he was the second in command, wasn't he?
Who?
Ba-
James?
the Troy Baker, his character.
Yes, he's
Yeah,
James.
he was the second in command, so he probably got a little extra.
Yeah, he gets
There's
an
a
extra razor.
reason
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
kisses the ring.
Once they leave the situation, David leaves them to that to basically go seek vengeance. It's at this point where we come upon one of the gentlemen who has found the house that Joel is in, starts moving things around, realizes that cabinet's
He saw
protecting
it.
something.
Yeah.
He pushes that out of the way and he gets down, and you're just hoping at this point that Joel has gotten up, and that empty mattress, you're just like, oh boy, here we go.
Oh man, my brain was making up shit on the way. Like before he even got that cabinet aside, I'm thinking he's going to stick that rifle in Joel's face, and Joel's going to shove it up his nose, or what's going to happen here. Like I did not actually expect him to open that door and not find Joel in that mat.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that.
Joel finds his strength. He gets up and he comes at this guy from behind and just drives that knife right through his shoulder. And what's crazy about this, of course, he's obviously weakened because he goes down to the ground with him and he's just like eye to eye as this guy dies in front of him. It is the creepiest look on this guy's face. Just like,
Like Corey said, we
out.
can't watch a horse kick, but
Yeah, right.
sorry.
No.
Yeah.
This episode, it definitely shows the dark side of Joel, which
Yes.
being as naive as I am, I only knew that he had this dark side from things that they'd mentioned before. But otherwise, I still kind of thought he was a little bit of a softie because you see those little moments with Ellie and everything like that. But what?
This is where you decided, Joel. Like,
See,
it wasn't when he,
No,
it wasn't when he smashed the guard to death, or whenever he murdered the.
No, this is
Or
it.
called
This is
Ellie
where
Cargo.
he starts to really
This is where
start
it got ambiguous.
really start to be that person that even way back whenever Tess and him were together, those people that they used to be,
reverting
right?
back to Pharaoh.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that until then. Not really. I
Wow.
mean, there are those moments, but this was colder.
This is a return to
looking
that
the guy in
animal
the
nature.
eye, and then
right.
later the way that he handles the next 2, right?
Good eye.
Anyhow, not a good eye. Maybe, like I said, it's naivety.
Right.
I don't think so.
I actually think I'll take a detour here since we're mentioning this right
Okay.
now, is because these scenes kind of overlap back and forth with Ellie and Joel. I think we can continue on since you're mentioning that.
Can I get one more touch?
Yes.
I think that this shows you the power of propaganda and like David's power, because again, all these people in the show are bad guys, but you like the ones the show wants you to like.
Mhm.
You like Joel because of the point of view of Joel that
As a father.
you're given. He says flat out, I'm not a good guy. I've done bad things. You know that he's basically on an even level with most of these other people, but
Mhm.
because of your point of view, you're given to like him over other people, and that's why the
Yeah, I
people
mean-
can be swayed to think the same thing about somebody like David.
We've experienced Joel's tragedy with him,
Right. And this comes up to the next scene where Joel, he gets the one guy in the basement, then he takes down the other guy, which we see that doesn't show off camera. It's off camera, but the next guy who finds his buddy, he comes up and with the rifle there and knocks him out cold, and then he resorts to tactics that he used with the couple, except this time with an added knife to the knee. So he has.
I love that line. That's all right. I believed him.
Yeah, yeah, and again, he takes the first guy and he's like, basically point to this on the map and it better match what your buddy says. And this is just brutal
So
fucking Joel.
dark.
He's unfettered by the need or desire to hide what he's capable of. He doesn't have to worry about hiding in front of Ellie or a family member or anything else like that. He's like, this is what he is, and he is desperate. He knows that Ellie's gone. He knows that he was almost in trouble. So he's got to find her. And he's like, I'm going to do whatever is fucking necessary to find her. And this scene is just so cringe, and it's funny because people cheer on this scene.
Yeah,
this is like
what you were saying.
this is
okay.
what we were waiting to see out of Joel.
Yeah.
Yet
So
it's
people were cheering.
so-
Meanwhile, I'm covering my eyes. And, oh,
Well, they're all
okay.
like, "Fuck yeah, fuck yeah!" Like this is what we want to see.
Have you ever seen, not to sidetrack movies, but have you ever seen the movie Two Guns with, I believe it's Mark Wahlberg and Denzel Washington, but the guy that
it's a
plays a
good movie.
CIA agent, he likes to interrogate people by taking playing Russian roulette, spins a thing and then he points it at him, right? And he says the mistake most people make is they point the gun at the person's head. But if you shoot him, you can't get what you need. And then
Yeah.
he pushes it to his knee.
Yeah,
And then asks some guy
Yeah.
refuses. He blows his fucking knee open. And whenever
Yep.
Joel put that knife in, I'm like, smart. Don't
That-
stab him in the head.
That's the
Ooh,
actor.
that's dark.
he's like Liam Neeson. He has a very specific set of skills.
Yeah.
That's a good movie, by the way.
So this, of
Write
course,
that
the
down.
scene, the
Like
scene
that.
absolutely
Uh-huh.
was just the full circle of,
Write that down.
or the full complement rather, of what I was seeing for the first time in Joel.
Yeah.
Yes.
But what I knew existed based on what other people would say,
Yeah.
based on what you guys
Yeah.
would say, best what Tess would say. But then this was just
And
it
she,
for
and
me.
she says, "She's like, we're bad people, Joel."
Mhm.
Extra dark. Did you feel like he'd done this before?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. He's done it
Oh.
before. And this is a scene that people who played the game wanted to see. Like
Mhm.
this happens in the game, and it happens pretty much verbatim. And the way that guy freaks out when he eventually kills his friend, and he's like, "Fuck you! I'm not telling you
Yeah.
anything." And it's like just that.
You gotta believe him.
I believe
It's
him.
okay. I believe him. Whack, and
Yeah,
it
it
just
was
goes
so
dark.
cold.
It's like,
Oh, chills.
damn.
Then we cut back to Ellie, right?
Yeah, at this point, we go back to Ellie. This is where we learn that David has some ulterior motives. We find her on the floor of a makeshift cell that's apparently in the kitchen of the steakhouse.
Yo, that's a bad sign right there. When your jail is in the kitchen, that
Yeah.
raises questions.
But that was intentional.
Yeah, he says, you're in this cell because I'm afraid of you. And what's really interesting about this is another mirror image of the game. From the floor to the way the cell's made, where it's chain link and a
wanted the
gate, it's
floors, the
identical
details. Yeah.
recreation of the cell that she was in the game, and it is freaky. It tells her that the other wanted her dead, and that he's basically trying to protect her.
Mhm.
He's just gaslighting
Trying
her
to
is what he's
endear
doing.
himself, yeah.
Right. The manipulation begins. He tries to gain her trust, tries to get her name. Of course, he keeps trying to get her name, which comes to play
He
later.
finds out in a minute.
Yes. He's offering her a new beginning. Ellie's not stupid. We come back to her after the previous Joel scene there. She's trying to find a way out. It's at this point she notices that there is an ear without an owner sitting on the floor. He brings her food. He tries to assure that it's
Lend me your ear and I'll sing you a song.
The Bella Ramsey's reaction there
Sorry, go ahead.
was, just an amazing performance. And then
She
that's
nailed
only
it.
one of two, and we'll get to the other one in this cage that I'm like, wow, just wow.
Yeah.
right. When he goes to feed her, he tries to assure her that it's just deer. She's like, "Are you going to chop me into little pieces?" He says, "I'd rather
She-
not."
She felt like a caged tiger from the moment he approached her.
Oh yeah, she accused him of eating people. He admits that they had to. Basically, you do things to survive. This is where this whole gaslighting is like, the person you're with killed people to protect.
Right.
She's like, he's trying to protect himself. He's like, no, he's trying to protect you.
Yeah.
They go back and forth. He starts complimenting her, saying she's loyal, smart, a good leader, and violent, and starts comparing her to him.
And how much he respects that violence.
And it just gets creepier and creepier. He talks about, how he learned the truth from the cordyceps. They're fruitful, they multiply, and they try to protect.
Right.
And they use violence if necessary, which a lot of people say, like, why were these in one of the previous episodes? Why are they attacking rather than eating? It's like, well, apparently this is a thing they do. They will attack to protect themselves.
It's a path to victory. You disable your opponent, you can now bite him,
Right. And I think that kind of goes, that kind of answers the question. Every time this show asks the question, would would this really be a thing? Or like, why was Ellie stupid enough to rub her blood in his, in Sam's wound? It's like, it's because she's a kid. And that's
Yeah,
just like,
she is a kid.
And she admits it was stupid to even try.
Right.
I love the contrast between him and in the past I've used the line "the walls come down" when it comes to Joel, because you see he's this rough and tumble, mean, overbearing character, but you see him break down, the tears in his eyes. It's brilliantly played by Pascal. This guy has the opposite thing going. He comes to you as soft and sweet, and I'm trying to be helpful, and you watch the walls come down, and it's just darkness
Evil.
behind them.
Yeah. He basically does say that they try to ensure their future with violence and that the cordyceps love. And then it's like, your skin crawls.
But they've shown us that.
Yeah. he continues by saying that he's a shepherd surrounded by sheep, basically throwing his own people, his own
Pretty much
followers.
proposing to her. That's how I was
Oh,
reading
yeah.
all of this.
Oh yeah,
It's
he says
really
he wants
weird.
he says he wants an equal, and you're like, oh,
He's
it's a
like, you
child
can be my
bride.
child queen, yeah.
Yeah.
Although, you know, and if you look at history, that kind of stuff was
absolutely.
common
They
back in
weren't.
a time, and there is less availability now. So I'm not going to like. I mean, the guy's a dirtball weirdo, but in that situation, you kind of wonder, like, oh, you know, fucking
He's taking advantage of something that he can take
We don't need
advantage
to
of.
justify it.
Yeah,
Was he
yeah,
darker?
kinda.
I feel like the illusion towards his being a predator was more overt in the video game. In the
Actually, no. And this is
the
what's
opposite,
interesting.
okay.
They actually kind of bury it in subtext.
Okay.
You get the impression that he has more than just a professional affection for Ellie.
Yeah.
But it's never made explicit. I think here they make it absolutely
Yeah, it's
explicit.
my first playthrough, I don't think I caught it at all. And I remember the second playthrough talking to my wife about it and thinking, oh my God. Or did you hear what he just said? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then, okay, and then this, there was no question. Like,
Yeah, they leave it intentionally vague in the game.
Okay.
As to
I mean,
what
it's
he
not great to talk about.
as to what he wanted her for, and it becomes clear he wants to basically populate the earth with this girl.
Right.
It's just like
He wants a new Eve.
ugh.
Oh, that gives me such chills.
I
the way you
know
said that.
exactly.
You got to kind of feel bad for an actor that plays a bad guy so well.
I do.
Because like you're
yeah.
looking at like you know like the kid that played King Joffrey.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
like you can respect the acting job, but there's a lot of people out there that are just gonna shit on you for the rest of your life because you were a bad
Oh,
guy.
yeah,
in
I
the
do
thing
feel
they
bad for that.
watched.
As an actor, you want to play the bad guy. So Joel
Right.
actually has a good character because he gets to be a bad guy at
And a
times.
good guy, yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to be this kind of bad guy.
No, yeah. Like, what was even, slightly less dark, but just as powerful? What was that guy's U.S. agent? Had
you
to
wanna-
leave social media because he was the guy who played the replacement Captain America in the TV series,
Mhm.
and he got shouted down so hard online he had to quit social media. It's just like,
Oh, that's
come
a
on, this is a
shame.
person, not the
Yeah,
character.
that was a.
But that's where this
come on,
like
people.
casting this guy is an interesting. Choosing a basically, I don't want to say unknown. I'm sure he has his own credits, but
No,
at the
he-
same time, he's not a guy that you're going to recognize from other things necessarily.
You
He
want to
said
be
in an interview that he walked on to expecting to play a clicker.
Oh.
He didn't try out for that
Oh,
part.
wow.
They picked him out of a crowd for that.
I mean, he
Yeah.
nails it.
He nailed it.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
you want to be Hans Gruber, not Buffalo Bill.
Yeah. Well
I read
said.
Absolutely. That's a really good.
I read Troy
I get that
Baker
reference.
also thought he was going to be a clicker,
Yeah.
but there
Yeah.
weren't no fucking clickers in this show. So-
Easy. Easy.
Shit, it's getting salty, dog. One episode left. They got to put him somewhere.
As they continue to talk, he's trying to lean into his trying to lure her in or groom her, if you will. They move closer and closer to this door separating them. He looks down, the camera pans down, his hand is on the door, her hand next to his, and then he touches her hand. And it's at this point she said, and this is actually kind of interesting, I want to talk about. She goes, oh, this O happens in the game.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's a different type of O. Like in this way, in the game, it's almost like a disappointment from Ellie. Like, oh, you're just telling me this to gain advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And in here, she's like, oh, I see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was her being the wolf now. I thought
Yeah.
that was her
It was
like
it was
getting
a
him to
Absolutely,
let
absolutely.
your guard down.
She was taking advantage of
Yes.
his desires.
It's
this
a
time.
different tone, and I like both in different ways. It's just like this, like, oh, okay, well, here's what's going to happen.
You can say so much with one little syllable.
And even I
Wow.
was watching one of the reactors I watched, and it's a man and woman, and she sees this happening. She goes, oh, like it's this realization as to what is happening, and it is kind of
Oh.
universal when your sort of questions are answered. Is he? Yeah, he is.
Yep.
She grabs his hand and kind of pseudo lovingly and just goes for it. She sees the keys. I think they show the keys on his hip. She breaks his finger, tries to grab at that thing, and then he pulls her to that gate really hard,
Really
slamming her
hard.
face. That happens in the game too. And then that's where we get the line from the opening of the show.
I felt bad for that stunt actress that took the hit, man. That looked like it hurt.
Pulling
Yeah.
into the fence, yeah.
She did a great job. The way she looked through the whole scene, whenever she says, "Tell them that Ellie is the little girl who broke your fucking finger." Oh my goodness,
That rage.
unbelievable!
And she
How do you?
Beautiful
Yes,
rage.
how does a person
Yeah.
act as an actress, I think that
She
she's
had a
just
wonderful,
amazing.
glorious.
Let's see what I go tell the others now.
Ellie,
What?
tell them that Ellie is the little girl who broke her fucking finger!
So well done.
Her
Had to do
line
it
read,
again.
I like the reuse.
her line read is so good. Ashley Johnson in the original game, who plays Ellie, does a really good job, but I actually do think this surpasses. And it's interesting if you do go back and forth. I was having a conversation with somebody on Facebook. The differences in the acting, and you can actually see the differences in someone who is acting to, I don't want to say nothing. I mean, she has her co-stars there, but you get limited direction because you have this is 10 years ago. You have Neil Druckmann directing it, and you have limited takes probably. You don't get to really lean into something, and this might not be something that was in the original read, but the way she performs it being directed by this director, you can just
If you're
feel
talking
that
about
powerful.
the acting that they animated off of, then she's probably covered in ping pong balls too, which is probably going to
Yeah.
change
Right.
emotions and
But I'm just saying
mannerisms
her
a little
read,
bit.
the actual the little girl who broke your fucking the way
Yeah,
she
she
leans into
crushed
it.
it, man.
She
Oh.
just like she swings for the fences in that performance, and it's like it really and that's added to by the blood going down her face. And then when he says, and I like this line, you know, little what did you say before? Little pieces, and it's just like chilling. Both.
I'm sorry,
both-
I cut your.
No, that's
I
fine.
just thought it was.
No, you're fine.
He had that in there too on his clip for the intro. I just thought it put a bigger punctuation on it, ending with. The
Yeah, you're
fucking
right,
finger
and you're
the
absolutely right.
boom.
But I do like that read, and the way that David's and both of them read it is just like, ooh, it's just chilling because she's still in that cage, and he's got the keys, and now he's going away.
When he put his hand up, she broke his finger. I mean, I sort of like in my head was like, "You fucked up." Oh.
We briefly switch back to Joel, who has now made his way from the town. Obviously, I do like that they're going on with the fact that he's still not well, but he's at least on his feet, and now he's extra motivated.
The adrenaline is running.
You know, he comes to the town, he breaks the lock and goes in there, finds her backpack, which is in the game where he finds her backpack sitting on that bottom shelf. He also sees the dead horse, and of course a couple of bodies hanging from the ceiling.
Right.
And just the most chilling is all the canoes.
Can I point something out here?
Wait, why were the canoes?
I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
Just that they were there. Yeah.
I'm like, did I?
My wife
get it?
caught in the opening that they had a warning of like adult content. This nudity was tagged on there, and afterwards she goes, "Where was the nudity?" I said, "The hanging bodies."
Didn't even
It's
notice.
sort of funny that the nudity got a warning, but the headless bodies hanging from the thing don't bother people enough. Like, really? That's the part that needs the warning?
In the game, it's creepy because you walk through that kind of cooler and it's darkened in there, and you're running into things. You realize the things you're running into are hanging bodies.
Dong.
Nudity.
It's got a dong right in the eye.
Nudity, not headless bodies. Sorry.
We go right back then to David and James dragging Ellie from her cell. She does get a good bite on David, but the way they slam her down on that table, this happens in the game too. They slam her down there. She fights and pleads and screams before saying, "I'm infected."
Mm-hmm.
Yep, she plays her
This
only
puts,
ace.
This puts the silence on everything, and they're just like, "What the hell? Like, what are you talking about?" They have her roll up her sleeve, and they see this infection. They're going back and forth on whether this is real. And I love her line here. She's like, "What did you say? Everything happens for a reason."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "I'm infected, and now so are you."
Now so are you.
And then
Now,
He said
Troy
bullshit.
Baker
Oh wait, sorry.
gets his last words. That looks pretty fucking real to me. And then boom.
Delivered very well too.
and I just loved. I actually kind of like. I paused the video when I was watching this. So I'm like, I was so happy for Troy to get a nice death scene on screen. It's like, oh, that's fucking great. Oh, absolutely. I rewound it, went back to it. When David brings that cleaver down right next to her head too.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit! I thought he was going to hit her. But yeah, seeing him go out with a nice cleaver to the neck, it was very satisfying.
I think that a lot of what makes the performances different on the on-screen Ellie versus the game Ellie is that Ashley Johnson, although in the game she looks young, but she looks young in a way that like still you kind of can see an adult person in there.
Yeah.
I think that
She looks more teenage.
Ellie has such a childlike face in this show that it really just puts a punctuation on every violent thing she does or every fuck she delivers. It's just like, oh, you don't expect that to come out of her. I
Right,
think.
right.
I get excited every time she drops the F bomb.
She does
Oh, yeah.
wield
Let's
the
count to
F-bomb
10.
like a fucking lightning bolt. I mean, it's wonderful.
You know, she lays that axe into him and she takes off, and then David takes a couple shots at her but misses.
Mhm.
She heads into the restaurant, and this is where we get this kind of cat and mouse game.
Boss fight.
Boss fight.
Importantly,
Dun, 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 dun.
David takes the cleaver from
Mhm.
James's neck. That's important.
Yep, walks off with that and starts basically, stalking her through the restaurant. Very, very Jurassic Park style again. She pulls a flaming, or at least a hot burning log from the fire there and tries to
That-
whip it at him.
Also from the game.
Also from the
Oh,
game.
no kidding.
Yep.
Wow, really
Yep.
down to the details.
Yes, sets the place on fire. Now, a few people asked, like, why didn't he try to put that fire out immediately? I think it's a couple reasons. Number one, he thought he might be infected.
Mhm.
Number two, he's just like, fuck it all at this point. I'm just peacing out right here.
Yeah,
I think that in his mind, the building's replaceable. He does not want to let that distract him.
From his goal, yeah.
Right.
Right. And one thing we know from the bad guys so far in this is that they are laser focused on their
Their
goals. They're not adaptable. They will not change how they're gonna proceed. And that always gets them in a lot of trouble.
I mean, you pointed out Joel earlier. He's starting to return to those animal instincts, and I think we're seeing the same thing from this guy. He's turned feral. He's
And
focused
Ellie.
on his target. It's
Yeah.
and Ellie too. It's no longer about keeping this community going. He might even be outed for all he knows, as far as the cannibalism or whatever else he's done wrong. Like, it makes you wonder about his relationship with that little girl. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just so dark the way they pan it out. And in the game, you're sort of distracted from it. You hear it verbally in the this is where you get
Dialogue,
the
yeah.
indicators in the dialogue, but you're also spending your time trying to figure out how to get behind him, because you beat him by running from behind him and stabbing him.
Yep,
as I
exactly like
recall.
it happens here.
But repeatedly, you have to hit him a few times before this ends.
before
doesn't
it triggers it
Yeah.
triggers the cutscene.
Right.
Oh, she chops him up into little pieces.
Yeah.
But before you would like run up, slash him, and then before he turns around, you were trying to hide again or something like that.
It's not a one-shot kill.
Mhm.
So in here, she grabs one of the lovely Todd Steakhouse steak knives,
Mhm.
and she goes at him, puts the knife. She does get the knife on him, but they both drop their weapons, and it goes under. And here it's a table, and there it's a booth. I know. I just noticed these things. But he does, get on top of her and starts getting super duper creepy.
Mhm.
And she's trying to wiggle her way back, and it's like the game player me knows what happens here. We know she's going to make it to this knife, and she gets there and she gives him a whack, and then it is off to the races.
Her rage
Oh
exploded.
my God. And it is just like she's afraid for her life. She's afraid for everything. She's afraid for Joel. It's just all culminating in this one instance where she just loses it. And everyone I watching this, all the reactions I saw of this, you just as each time she comes down, everyone's head's like, yeah. Just watching her chop this guy's head
She
to
was
bits.
seeing red. Have you ever been mad enough to see red?
Oh, yeah.
It's a real thing.
It is.
She was seeing it right there. It was
And they even
bloodlust.
darken the temperature on the video. It's
Did
like
they?
it's getting very orangish reddish as she's doing this. The way the fire's
So
behind
into it.
her. There was a scene where he's like, Ellie, and there's that back of it's his back with the flames. And
Yeah,
it's just
that
like,
was from the game. Oh, yeah.
And now in the game, Joel's right there right after this. He comes up behind her, and the scene that we get after this, after they leave, is what happens here. But she goes out into the snow and she gets grabbed from behind. We don't know who it is initially, and then it's Joel, and he's like, she's struggling, and turns her around.
Again, a beautiful performance.
Before we get too far ahead or to this point, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I want
go
to just
ahead.
get this in before. Did anyone else? I mean, my normal I know the game. I know
Yeah.
I played the game.
Yeah.
But a television watcher who casually watches it might have assumed, as my brain broke and did, Joel's lurking in the background. Like, I think most people are just assuming Joel's going to come in and save her.
Oh, yes,
And
absolutely.
the writer said after the show, we were having none of that, and
Nope.
it showed. Like this, she needed to be her own hero.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pull
No.
us back. But
No,
what were
you're
you
absolutely
saying?
right. And in the show, he's there, but again, she does take care of herself. She proves that she's capable, as depressing as it is, to kill somebody to save herself.
She is not a damsel in distress.
Exactly. You don't want to put that out there because it's just like you want to strengthen this character, and this is the way to do it, by having her fight her own fights. She does get out there, but at the same time, this is traumatic. She realizes that this person grabbing her from behind is Joel. He looks into her eyes, she looks into his. And when he says when he
cried.
when he calls her baby girl,
It's okay, Mel. I cried.
fucking lose it
The post in
every
the group,
time. I have
man.
to pause the video if I'm doing something. Like, I can't be crying right now. But when he calls her baby girl, it's just like that just seals it. And you're like,
Yeah, I don't break up watching
It's a-
shit, but I knew them feels.
it's at
It was
that
like,
point,
oh.
8 episodes into a 9-episode series, that you realize that he is fully invested in her. Yeah. And it is really, just everything. It's just, this is everything.
She hasn't replaced Sarah, but she has become a part of his family
Yes.
at that level.
Yes. Yeah. Were you going to say anything, Corey? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you were saying something. But I mean, it is this episode was great. It's exactly what I wanted it to be. I kept thinking, I knew what had to happen in these last 2 episodes. I'm like, well, they're going to definitely do the cannibals next. That was in my head. And I'm like, well, how are they going to, because there is a lot of, not downtime, but you're doing other things. You're killing infected. You're trying to sneak around. You're trying to get from point A to point B. There's this blizzard. You're moving and killing people constantly. Joel kills more people than just those 4 people.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, how are they going to wrap it up? How are they going to do that? And it's like, nope, the pacing was fucking perfect. It's exactly what it needed to be.
This was beautiful. I actually forgot about the cannibals until this episode started. I actually didn't catch on until she started talking to her at the campfire that's where this was going. I'd just kind of forgotten about the David character because so many little stories happened throughout the course of that game. Like Corey pointed it out, it's tough to keep this straight in your head.
Yeah, when they were talking about doing this, I'm thinking all the big story beats. You lose Sarah, and then whatever happens at the end. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, it's like Henry and Sam. Oh, Henry and Sam. That's right. Oh, the cannibals. Oh, that's right. Like I forget about all these things that come in between there until we get to the end. And now they got a few things to cover, and we're gonna get another guest star next episode, which I'm really excited about.
Spill. Who is it?
I don't want to say.
We're not supposed to spoil.
No.
They put it on their Twitter.
I'll tell you off camera. I mean, they've posted this.
It's okay, man.
It's on their social media. So if you really want to spoil yourself, it's out there.
Okay.
In fact, it's really funny because in the early, when we first started doing this, I looked up the IMDb and it shows a credit in there. I'm like, well, that's a spoiler.
Oh, really?
Like this person's playing this part. I'm like, oh, I know who that is, and I know why they're there. But I'm really curious. There's been speculation. Will this be a cliffhanger? Will we actually get the ending?
Yeah, I'm in a similar mentality too.
Do you think season 2 is going to finish up the first game?
It could. I also start wondering, are they going to... There's some things that happen in the future that require some flashbacking. I was also wondering in my head, like, did they record some of these flashback scenes? Because the character herself would have been... Because, again, by the time we get along to filming the rest of this for the next seasons, she's going to be older. And if we're flashing back, do you want to keep her that... Like, do you want to do that? But do you actually have the budget to do such things? I doubt it. It's just my headcanon wants them to do a flashback with her at this age.
Granted, they can go back and make changes after the contract or whatever gets signed, but like they had this in the can before they knew there was going to be a second season, right?
But you got the impression that they had a lot of faith in this.
Yeah, I'll bet.
The people that you hire, the people that you cast. It's when I first heard about this happening, I talked about this before, where when I saw who was being attached to this, I'm like, oh, HBO, that's good. Craig Mason, oh, well, that's real good. I like that. It's like Pedro Pascal. I'm like, fuck yeah, Bella Ramsey. I'm like, I was nervous because I'm nervous anytime something I love is being turned into a TV show or movie. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm pretty confident this is going to be fucking awesome.
I mean, these guys have weathered review bomb after review bomb. I mean, they're just walking through it like they're walking through raindrops. These, you go on IMDb and stuff. A couple episodes really got slammed right off the bat, just for
we get our homophobes.
The homophobes, but like it really has.
And you're like
crushed by that.
And this isn't new. It's like they didn't invent this. The characters who were queer in the first episode in the game were queer here. It's like not like a fucking surprise.
The audience that doesn't thrive on rage or watch everything just hoping to jump on IMDb and make a stink about it afterwards, they're sticking with the show. It did what, 80 million people in the last episode? Or
I don't remember. I just know that it's basically topped itself each and every week. And I think tomorrow's episode. This final episode, I'm very curious as to what they're going to do, what they're going to finish up, and how it's going to,
They cliffhanger me, I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be pissed. I don't care.
I think the problem with cliffhangering this is that this is information that is out there for people to have. Right. And if you don't wrap it up now, you're going to risk people spending 2.5 years spoiling themselves.
And losing interest.
Chan.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, you seem like you
I was just going to say, first of all, I didn't know that you could say anything on IMDb. I just use it to look up people.
Well, no.
But I think I'm feeling good that I don't know where to find this shit.
Well, here's the thing.
People are saying,
No, no.
so I'm okay with that.
As someone who's played the game, when I saw this credit to this person, I knew it as a spoiler. You would never have known it.
But he was saying people were
The review
slamming,
bombs is what she's referring to.
slamming them on IMDb.
He pointed it out the first one after episode, what was it, 3?
3.
And yeah, they were getting hammered down to like, they were at 2 point something for a while with, a couple thousand
So what are these
reviews.
just reviews that people are?
These are
posting?
people who don't like, they don't like people being themselves or whatever their
Sean,
rage is
her
about.
question is not about what they're saying. It's about
Right, I
how
get
they're
that.
submitting their opinions.
Yes.
Oh,
This is
it's
like
a
a
star
Rotten
review.
Tomatoes.
Yeah, it's like Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, okay.
1.5
okay.
stars.
I didn't even
out
know
of
that.
10.
You can
that
go
was a
on
thing.
IMDb and
I got
and
mad there for a second.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't. I'm stay away from there.
You can go on IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic and give your personal review as just a person.
Yeah.
And if you get enough people behind you, you can drive the reviews down on anything, whether it's a TV show or a video game. And these people are like, I don't like gay people, so I'm going to give it a 1. It's like,
Well, and
fuck you.
I've actually heard from people that I honestly didn't think had any homophobic tendencies aligning their views that were just going like, kind of like, I get what they're doing. It was cool, but it doesn't push the story forward. And I have a tendency to feel like the story that we're telling, the only way that you get it is by developing the world and developing the characters. And although I get that episode sidetracked a lot from our characters, I thought it was a good self-enclosed story, and it was interesting and very cool. And you don't know what significance some of that stuff could have later in terms of going back flashbacks.
The reason that I jumped to feeling defensive about the reaction was because it wasn't unique to. It was unique to those specific episodes. Like episode 1 did well, episode 2 did well, even though they were not zombie. I understand the focus. There's not enough zombies. This is a zombie show. I want more.
I'm
Zombies.
over it, guys. Leave me alone. I'm over it.
But and that you'll have reviews based on that. But these 2, that's one in the Riley episode specifically got hit, and it's sort of obvious.
But again, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm sure there's plenty of homophobic assholes out there fucking this shit up.
Yeah.
But I could also understand.
Yeah, some people just don't like stuff. That's
I've
fair.
heard points of view of people out in the wild that are like, oh, you're not pushing the story forward. But again, I mean, you're going to have that in a place where you're building the characters and you're building the world. And if they were just going to go to pushing the story forward, then this shit could have been done in 3 or 4 episodes. You
Thanks
know what I
for
mean?
setting me straight there, man. I want to make it clear if anybody does happen to listen. I don't think you're a homophobe if you didn't like the show. You can have any number of perfectly valid reasons or personal reasons or invalid reasons. It's your imagination. Enjoy the show. Just whatever, man. Don't be mad. Be nice to people.
Yeah,
How fucking hard is
exactly.
that?
For sure.
I think we can go off on that. Be nice to
Sorry.
people. Absolutely.
That's right.
Once again, thank you so much for joining me this week. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to join the conversation, you can hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at The Last of Yins. Actually, it's just at Last of Yins. On Facebook, The Last of Yins Podcast, or you can email us at thelastofyins@gmail.com. I'd like to thank Raid Roof for original music. Until next time, thank you.
It's me. It's me. It's okay.
But
Okay. It's okay, baby girl. I got you. I got you.